Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. And if you haven't seen me before, and if you haven't been on my channel before, my name is Katie and I am a photographer and videographer, and I'm also an adoptee. And I share a lot of this on my Instagram and especially on my TikTok. And I want to get better at posting more videos on here to kind of match my other platforms, kind of encompassing all that is KDB, you know what I mean? But if you haven't seen my other video that I have uploaded, I am a Russian adoptee. I was born in Moscow in 1995 and I was adopted from an orphanage in 1996, and I was brought to the United States and I have grown up here and that's where I live. I don't really consider myself an American. I just consider myself a Russian who has grown up in America because I am literally 100% Russian and Eastern European, and that's my culture and that's my heritage. And especially with everything that has gone on in the last couple months, I really feel closer to where I come from more now than ever in my whole life, and I feel more myself than I ever have in my whole life. So, like I said, if you haven't watched that other video, I kind of touched on my adoption story, growing up being an adoptee, and kind of, I think I went into a little detail about what I was doing to kind of look for my family. And at that time, I had not found my family. So, let's get into it, shall we? So, I'm 29 years old. Like I said, I was born in Moscow. I was born in July, and then I was adopted in October of the next year. So I was like a year and a couple months old when I came here. And I started looking for my birth family when I was 20. And so it took me 9 years. A lot of people are like, what? When I tell them that, they are like, that's crazy. That's a very, very long time. And it is. It was not easy whatsoever. I feel like with Russia being what it is, it makes it 10 times harder. I always said during this journey, like, sometimes I wish I was born literally anywhere else, because I feel like, now it's kind of dramatic to say that, because I'm sure there's worse places that you're not going to find the right information and it's going to be like, you know what I mean? But trying to find out anything when it comes to Russia is very, very hard. And also wanting to know that like the information that I have is real and factual as well is really hard. You know what I mean? And also like during my search, which we'll get into it, there's certain things that they're not allowed to do, which kind of made it harder for me to get anywhere in my search. So, yeah, it took me 9 years, and I started when I was 20, and I was terrified to tell my parents about it. I've had a good life. I've had hard times here and there. Kids were very nasty to me the entire time I was in school until like 11th grade. I was bullied from kindergarten to 10th grade, and a lot of why kids did not like me was because I was different and my story was different from theirs, and I truly don't understand why else. But a lot of what they, would say about me and stuff is like where I come from, and like, oh, like, why would your family not want you? Like, of course they wouldn't want you, like, blah, blah, blah. It wasn't like they just wanted to like ask me those questions. It was like saying like, oh, we know why your mom would give you up and like whatever, you know what I mean? I was called a communist. I was called a Russian spy. I was called the nastiest things you can ever think of, which honestly I'm kind of grateful for looking back, because I was blessed with a really, really supportive family. My family my entire life has been very open about where I come from. There was never a time that I did not know I was adopted, and there was never a time where I didn't know where I came from as well. So I'm uploading a TikTok right now about this topic as well, and I just don't want it to interrupt this video. But yeah, so all of these nasty things that kids would say to me really did not affect me, and I'm very, very grateful for that, because I had such a good family behind me that like made me proud of where I come from. So even now, like, you could say whatever you want to me about where I come from, my story, my family, my sisters, anything, and you're not going to hurt my feelings. And I'm very, very, very lucky for that. And I'm very happy that I have turned out that way, and I didn't let any of that negativity make me a mean and hateful person. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes being treated that way your whole life and people not accepting you kind of like makes you not want to be around people. It makes you kind of cranky. It makes you mean, and I'm really glad that that just did not happen for me. So yeah, I was terrified when I wanted to tell my parents that I wanted to look for my family. Like I said, I've had a good life. My mom and I didn't really get along until a few years ago, so that was really scary for me because I didn't want that to be something else that's going to drive us apart. But she and my dad immediately said, absolutely. My mom went and got my paperwork out immediately, and that's the first time that I sat down. I saw my mom's name for the first time. I saw the details about my adoption for the first time. It was very emotional, but it was needed because like I was saying, I'm gonna probably go all over, so bear with me in this video. But like growing up, like I would think about my birth mom, I don't want to say every day, but I feel like it was every day, but it was like she was always in the back of my mind. Like, do I look like her? Does she think about me as much as I think about her? Does she miss me? Does she regret me? Like, being in an orphanage, like giving me up. Like, I didn't know the scenario and like why I ended up where I ended up. Like, obviously I was meant to have this life and I'm very grateful for it, and I am an open book. I will say this over and over and over. I share my story because, and I said this on my TikTok, and I share this on my Instagram and everything, I share my journey about being an adoptee because I feel like it's very, very valuable, and there aren't enough adoptees talking about it. There are not enough adoptees that actually talk about the hard truths and the hard realities of what it's like to be adopted. They don't talk about the bullies. They don't talk about the times where you feel like you don't fit into your family. Even though you do and your family isn't making you feel that way, no one talks about all the things that come with being an adoptee. They only kind of romanticize adoption towards like the adoptive family, which, don't get me wrong, I am 100% for adoption, obviously, or I wouldn't be here. And I think it is an amazing thing, or giving a child a home, whether it's international adoption or it's through domestic or it's through foster care, like whatever scenario you find yourself in, you're still giving a child a loving home that they desperately need. However, I think that people just think that aspect and they don't think how it comes out of loss. It comes from, most of the time, not a great situation from the birth mom, and no one really talks about how it affects the child as a child and also as they go into adulthood as well. And there's a lot of books and resources that I can recommend to you guys as well, and a lot of books and resources that I think are not also talked about for like parents that are looking to adopt or have adopted, to understand how adoption affects the child, even if the child doesn't even realize it. Like, there are things that your body and your brain remember as a child or whenever you were adopted that you don't even realize, and it kind of comes out in your like certain behaviors and certain things like that. So yeah, I just wanted to be just like an open and honest resource for other adoptees and potential adoptee parents, and like just everyone involved in adoption, because like I've said 400 times probably already, it's just not talked enough about, and they don't talk to adoptees themselves. And I just want other adoptees out there to know that you're not alone as well. I wish growing up that I had someone to watch videos or talk to that was older than me that had gone through the same thing, so that I could talk to someone that understood my feelings and could articulate why I was feeling certain ways that I didn't understand why I was feeling that way, if that makes sense. And so I share my journey just to be an open and honest resource, and just to share my journey, because I'm proud of where I come from, and I'm not afraid to tell you guys the hard shit, you know what I mean? And I don't want to, and I don't condone people sharing their stories and only highlighting things or only being negative about everything, because like I've said, my life hasn't been easy. It's been up and down. I've had all kinds of things. Even now I struggle with certain things when it comes to being an adoptee and kind of being torn between two countries and two cultures, and you know what I mean? So yeah, that's why I started sharing my journey, and I've gotten to connect with so many other adoptees, adoptive parents, like everything. I've helped other people find their families, which is crazy, just by sharing certain things that I have done in my journey over the last 9 years. And there's nothing that means more to me, one, than people supporting me finally after all these years of being tortured of where I come from. The amount of support that I got by sharing my story was crazy. Everybody on my Instagram, so many people on TikTok, on my Facebook, like, supported me and loved me and were excited for me, even though I said from the beginning I could get my feelings hurt. If you start this journey, it's not going to be easy. You're going to get your feelings hurt. You're going to be happy. You're going to be sad. You're going to be excited. You're going to be distraught. You're going to be hopeful and nervous and terrified, and like, I would definitely wait till you're an adult to do this, unless you really think you can handle whatever the answers are. But I'm glad that I waited till I was 20, and I'm almost glad that I didn't find them and find my answers until this year, because I'm old enough now to not take things super to heart that really have nothing to do with me, which we'll get into. But you know what I mean? Like, I think if you're going to start this journey, I would definitely wait till you are at least in your 20s, because I feel like if you're a teenager, I couldn't imagine finding out the information that I have found out personally as a teenager, because you already have all the teenage things, you got your hormones, you got all these things, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think I would have handled it well. And now being an adult, I can kind of understand the scenarios and the reasoning, and like that. We'll get into that. But anywho, I feel like I'm just rambling all over the place. So yeah, let's just get into it, shall we? Because I don't even remember what I was talking about before I went on that other tangent. So, things I did when I first started, and then we'll get into how I actually found my family. So, when I started this 9 years ago, I was 20 years old. First things first, I did 23andMe, and I got nothing. I got absolutely nothing, which, keep in mind, I'm just speaking from a Russian adoptee standpoint and Russian people. It could be different for other cultures, but Russians really don't do DNA tests. I don't even know if they're allowed to do DNA tests. So it's kind of a very, very slim chance that you're going to find anybody anyways, but you never know. So I would still suggest, I was just talking to a girl on my TikTok earlier who messaged me and said that she did 23andMe and she only got like a 2% match on like a relative, and that's all she got. And I said, well, don't let that discourage you, because Russians don't really do DNA tests. However, there are Russian people that do one kind of DNA test. So I originally did 23andMe, got nothing. I cried because for some reason I was still young. I thought that I was gonna at least find like an uncle or a cousin that was gonna like lead me to my mom, and boom, I was gonna find her, you know? I had no idea that it was going to take me almost a decade. And so yeah, I did 23andMe, but then you can actually take your 23andMe results. It will put it almost into like a code, and it'll give you like a file that you can download, and then you can upload that file onto other DNA sites. You cannot do this with Ancestry.com. Ancestry you cannot transfer to or from. So keep that in mind. I did both, but I first did 23andMe and I transferred it to MyHeritage, which is where you'll get some Russian people. I got slight differences every time I transferred. So I would suggest doing that if you're in your search, or if you're just nosy and you just want to know, this is what I did. But if you're searching like I did, I would definitely start with a DNA test, because you truly never know. We'll get into it. You truly never know. You might have luck especially if you're not like Russian, or if it's like domestic, you really could find your whole family. Like it's gonna vary for every single person. So don't be afraid to do that. Don't be discouraged if you don't get anything, because it's not the end of the world. There are so many other avenues that you can try. So do your 23andMe, and then transfer your results to MyHeritage, and then also transfer your results to Family Tree DNA. And also, if you really want to, you can actually transfer again. Well, not transfer, like just keep uploading to these sites. Upload your results to GEDmatch, and that's kind of advanced and kind of hard to understand if you're not really familiar with how DNA works. So if you're just a beginner with like DNA tests and stuff, I would just do the 23andMe, get your results, see what you have, and then transfer to at least the Family Tree and to MyHeritage. And like I said, you'll get different discrepancies and stuff, but you can look at people's family trees. Some people have trees. If you have a somewhat close relative, you can always reach out and message them and just say, hey, like, if you have names or birthdays or whatever, just say like, hey, this is my story. I don't know if this means anything to you, you know, whatever. The worst they could say is no, you know? And I did that. So I transferred my DNA to those places, and I got a little closer each time, but there was never a close relative. So I was kind of going back and forth. I got a close-ish relative. He might be my third cousin, maybe second. It was like second to third, I want to say. His name's Sergey. And I found him on MyHeritage after transferring. And these sites are always updating as well. So if you don't find somebody right away, you never know. Because people are always signing up, people are always doing it, people are always transferring. Like, you literally never know. So by doing these anyways, it might take 10 years and you might have someone pop up. You never know. So like I said already, like, don't get discouraged if you don't have your entire family tree, like, figure it out from day one. But yeah, so I was gonna message him until I started a different avenue. So what I ended up doing, I kind of touched on it a minute ago. When I did my 23andMe and I got nothing, I did message who, I didn't have anybody closer than like third or fourth cousins and further. So I just picked one of the third cousins because she was the closest, and I messaged her and I said, hi, like, my name's Katie, you know, I'm adopted, I'm looking for my birth family, like, and I told her some names, and I said, do you recognize any of these? Like, and I also don't know which side these relatives are on, right? So I don't know if she's from my dad's side or from my mom's side. So that also is kind of hard, because you don't know who is who on what side, if that makes sense. So I messaged her, and she was very sweet. I think her name was Carol, I want to say. And she was very sweet, and she was just like, no, but like, good luck, like, I wish I could help you, and that kind of stuff. So that was discouraging for me at first. But then I just like kept transferring my stuff. I would look my mom's name up on Facebook. I had no idea, like, our family name is very, very, very common in Russia as well. So, and there are a lot of common names in Russia. So if your family has a common name, it's going to be 10 times harder. I'm just going to tell you right now. I was typing in her name all over Facebook, different ways, different spellings, because I didn't know if, like, do I put, her name's Victoria, do I put a C, do I put a K, because that's the Russian, like, I was trying it a million different ways, but I don't know what she looks like, so I have no idea. And I was like, well, maybe one will pop up and I'll look like her, and I'm like, that's my mom, found her, you know what I mean? I was kind of naive into thinking that it was going to be that easy, because I really genuinely thought, and some people have had it like that, like they've done one thing and boom, found their whole family, you know what I mean? I just wasn't one of those cases, which is why I'm even more willing to share it, because it's been really, really difficult. I've cried, I've stopped, I've started, I've gotten so discouraged, I've shut down, I've had moments where I thought I was never, ever, ever going to find my family, and it was like really defeating to me. And I'm very, and something that I think is also not talked about as well is that adoptees have every right to find their family. Just like my adoptive mom, she does her ancestry, and she's built like her entire Italian family tree. Like, she's visited her relatives in Italy. And so just like everybody else that wants to know their heritage and know their family and where they come from, we also want to too. And it doesn't mean that we don't love our adopted families and our parents and our siblings that we have through adoption. It's just that, like, we want to know where we come from. And in my family, it was never taken that way at all. It was like, oh, if you find these people, they're just going to be an extension of our family, and we'll welcome them wholeheartedly. And that I got really, really lucky, because a lot of people are not as lucky with that situation. And I'm in a lot of adoption groups on my Facebook. I'm in 2 specifically Russian adoptee groups, and there are some crazy stories. Like, people have not had a good time. People have not found out that they're adopted until they're like 60 years old. Some of them were abused and stuff by their families. Some people, like, their adoptive parents want them to know nothing about where they come from. They've hid their documents. Like, all of that stuff is just crazy. So my heart goes out to you if you've not had an easy situation, and, you know, if you're kind of like almost fighting your family to know where you come from, and to be allowed to do that, even though you have every right to. So just know that you have every right to know where you come from. But yeah, so I've gotten discouraged. I've stopped, I've started, I've reached out, I've made some photographer friends online. There was one girl from Utah that I found out was actually adopted from like the complete opposite side of the country, like on the edge, like by Japan. And I think I said I'm from Moscow. So she found her mom just by like searching her on like Facebook or something. I don't even remember. And all she had was her mom's name. And I'm like, I have my mom's name, I had my mom's address at the time I was adopted, I had my mom's passport number, like all of those things. It's like, how are these people finding their families with this much information, and I have this much information and nothing, you know what I mean? So everybody's journey is going to be different. So after I did that, like I said, I made some friends online, like kind of sharing my story a little bit, nothing like crazy. I didn't really start sharing it until I started again like 2 years ago. Hold on, there's something in my eye. Is it an eyelash or like a rock? That hurts so bad. Okay, if my eye's watering, there's just something in it. I don't know if it's an eyelash. It felt like it was like wood, you know what I mean? Anyway, So yeah, I've had people say that they're going to help me and then completely disappear. I've called, like, Pittsburgh is like the city I'm like really close to. I'm within a 40-minute drive to the city. And that's where my adoption agency was at the time that my parents used. That doesn't exist anymore. I've called like the immigration places up there though. I've called like different, I don't know what you call it, like institutions or whatever that I thought would be able to help me. Nobody understood what I was asking. I even called the embassy in Washington, D.C. and they had no idea. They didn't even barely speak English anyways. So I tried all of that in the beginning, and I just was like, I don't even know where to begin, truly, because if all these people have offered to help me and they couldn't, and even these like, even the embassy and like all these places that I thought would be able to help me can't help me, like I'm never gonna find my family, like whatever, you know, like what am I gonna do? So I've stopped and started, I've done all these things, and then 2 years ago I decided, let's just start doing it, because for some reason after COVID, so many amazing movies and TV shows came out during that time, and then a lot of shows and movies about adoptees came out, which was very weird to me because you don't really see it portrayed a lot. And if you see adoption portrayed in movies, it's always portrayed as this poor orphan, and like it's not accurate, and there's a lot of adoptees that actually are pissed about that, because I'm not some sad orphan, but besides the point, I was an orphan, so I can say that. But I remember watching this one movie, I don't know what it was called, and it was on Netflix, and it was this girl who was adopted and she wanted to find her mom. And so she had like a list of who her mom could be, and she went all around, I don't know if it was Mexico, wherever it was. I'm gonna have to think what the movie was called. She went all around whatever place that she knew her mom was living, and knocked on all these doors looking for her mom, and she found her mom at the end. And I watched that and I like literally cried, because I'm like, I haven't done anything in a couple years because I just keep getting discouraged and people just keep like doing me wrong, you know? But I'm like, I want that for myself. I want, like, naively, I want this happy ending. I want this, I want to talk to my mom. I want to knock on her door and see her. And this was, I kind of started this, I think, before everything started going on over there. So this was before you can't even travel there, you know, all the things that are going on over there that we all are aware of. I started again before that happened, so then this only made it more difficult. But that's where I was at. I was like, okay, this is like speaking to me for some reason. I want to start my search again, and then this time I want to document the entire process. I want to be updating on my Instagram stories and on my TikTok, like every update that I can find. So what I did when I started again 2 years ago, I went back on my 23andMe, and I was like, okay, if you go on your 23andMe, you can look up your relatives, but then you can also look at a map, and it shows you where all your relatives are. So I looked at the map. It said there were 10 relatives that were still living in Russia. So you, like I said earlier, you never know. There might be some Russians on there, so don't like just not do it. Like, you never know. And so I was talking so long it stopped recording. So I went on my 23andMe, I picked one of my relatives, her name is Dasha, that it said still lived in Russia. I messaged her, I said, hey, here's my situation. I'm adopted, I'm looking for my birth family, you know, do any of these names mean anything to you, or do you have any ideas of what I can do from here? And when I tell you, God bless her, I will never be able to repay her for her kindness. Ever, ever, ever. Without her help, I would have never found my family. I would have never thought of the things that she thought of, like, ever in my life. So, also, don't be afraid to reach out to your relatives. You literally never know. Someone could be so kind, like her, and be willing to help you with no problem. And she speaks the language. She did live in Russia, but she wasn't living in Russia anymore. She actually lives in California. But she said, I don't know any of these things, but I will help you 100%. Like, send me some info. So I sent her some info and told her my mom's name and address and all that stuff. And within like a day, she sent me a huge email with translations, with links, with like my mom's address but spelled slightly different, so like I must have had it wrong or I just didn't understand. She found like businesses, like records, like with my mom's name on them. She found all kinds of stuff. And she sent me the sites, like the Russian site, so I could actually click on it. And she told me in this email, like, click on this site, type this in, click this, like, and then you'll see all the things that I'm looking at. So that's when I saw my mom's name, but it was changed from what I have, so it's different from my name. So she had gotten married at some point or just changed it. So that's when we knew, okay, I've been typing in this one last name, not last name, but like this family name, because Russians have 3 names, which I'll make another video about, like certain things like that. But her one name had changed, so obviously I'm not going to find her because she's not using that anymore. So she was so helpful. So she explained to me, like, when you have an address in Russia, that's your address for life. You never are not registered there. So my mom still lives there. She's got these like businesses and these like court documents with like utility bills and like all this stuff. So I'm like, you live there. Like, she's living there. Like, she's still there after all these years. That was the first time that I was like, holy shit, like this is real. Like, she's real. She's alive. She's still living there, you know, whatever. And then we just kind of would like keep researching her name. I looked her up on a couple Russian social media sites, which I'll insert a picture. Did I already talk about this? I don't even know. I couldn't download them, but by sharing my story on TikTok, like with these updates about like finding the documents with my mom, finding that she had a daughter listed. So that's how I originally found out that I had a sister, who's actually my older sister. Because on those documents it listed like initials, and then so by sharing my story on my TikTok and like my updates, I had a girl reach out to me and she said, hey, like I'm adopted and I found my mom using this Russian social media site. And I said, oh, bless. Can you send me what those are? Like, whatever. So she sent them to me. They're called the VK app. I'll put a picture in. So it's VK and then OKRU. And so I downloaded both of those, and for some reason I couldn't get them to like work. I don't know if I was just like typing in my phone number wrong or whatever. So I messaged her back on TikTok and I said, hey, like I for some reason can't get this to work. Like, would you be willing just to like search my mom's name for me? Because I truly just, I don't know. Like I can't get in. And she was incredibly nice again. And she said, absolutely, send me her name, send me her birthday, and like where you think she is. She searched her. Within 5 minutes, she sent me screenshots that she found my mom's social media profile. And I cried. Mark and I went to Lowe's to get like, I don't even know what we were getting. Like flowers maybe, because this was like the beginning of the year, like April, May. I think we were getting like my flowers for my porch and stuff. And we were just like in the section and my phone buzzed and I just see screenshots and texts within 5 minutes of me sending her that stuff. And I cried. We went home. I was like, clearly I need to go home. And I really thought that we found her. I thought I was going to be able to message her and boom, done. However, my mom had not used that account in years. So because I couldn't access it, I wrote a message and sent it to my friend Anna, who then sent it to my mom on the app from her account. I don't think she'll ever see it. Maybe she has, but we'll get into that as well. I don't want this video to be 40 minutes long, but it probably will be. So she messaged her for me, and then it was just waiting. Like, is she gonna see it? Is she not gonna see it? And so while we're like waiting, I'm thinking of other ways, like how can we contact her? Like Joshua would be sending me new documents that my mom's mom's name were on, and just like trying to figure out other ways to make contact, right? And then I decided, okay, well, there was like a sale on Ancestry for like $50. You could do your Ancestry DNA. And I said, what do I have to lose at this point? What do I have to lose at this point? I've gotten nowhere really. Like I found my mom, but like I didn't find her. I haven't talked to her. I don't know what she looks like, because her profile, there was nothing there. There was no profile picture, nothing. But it listed her birthday, which matched what I have. And it listed relatives that I know for a fact are like her dad, and it listed my sister Karina, who I already saw in the court documents. So I'm like, this is her, there's no question about it. Which is why I would suggest downloading those apps, because you can specifically search people based on location and age range. So if you know your parents or your sibling, if you're looking for siblings, You can type all that in and it will filter it for you, and it's way easier, especially if you have a really, really common Russian name like my family does. So yeah, so we were just kind of thinking of like other ways to look for her, and I said, well, I'm just gonna do this Ancestry. It's $50. It's normally like $200 maybe, right? I don't know. So I did that, sent that in, and kind of got the same results. Didn't get any close relatives, like first cousins and second cousins. They were all kind of the same. But this is the first time that I saw a close relative that had no, it wasn't split. Like on Ancestry, it'll kind of assume who's on one parent and who's on two. It'll group them. And I obviously, like I said earlier, I don't know what relatives are on what side, because I don't know my mom's heritage. She's Russian, obviously, and then my dad was like Russian and Jewish, I think, but I don't know where these people fall. Like, I don't know which parent is which, so it's hard for me to differentiate the sides and like the relatives. But anyways, so there's like the two sections, parent 1, parent 2, and all the relatives on those sides, and then there was its own section that listed a guy named Andre. And with the amount of DNA, this is the first time I saw this, and it was like the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. The amount of DNA that we share, we are probably half siblings, which is crazy. So when you're doing your DNA, there is something called CMs, and the bigger the number, like the higher the number, the more DNA you share. So your farther relatives will be like super like long numbers with like it's hard to explain. The more CMs that you share, the closer relative you are. So with the amount of DNA and the amount of CMs that him and I share, there's only like, he could either be my nephew, my uncle, or my half sibling. But with like the other research we were doing, we were like, no, he has to be your half sibling, because there's no fucking way that I have a sibling that's old enough to have a child that's old enough to be on Ancestry, if that makes sense. So we still think he's my half sibling, and with what I found afterwards, he's for sure my brother. But so that's the first time I saw like, oh my god, there's like another one, like another sibling, because I already knew about my sister, but I didn't know what she looked like or how old she was either. I think the whole time I thought I was like gonna be the oldest child, because my mom was only like 20, 21 when she had me, so I thought that I was gonna be the oldest child, and I'm not. So yeah, I saw him, I messaged him, and I said like, hey, like, do these names mean anything to you? I didn't tell him that I was adopted, because we didn't know if he was in Russia or if he was here or wherever. So you don't want to just like throw all your information out, right? And I didn't get a response. And then I think I messaged him one other time a few months later, because before I messaged him, he was only logging on like every now and then. But then after my first initial message, he was going on like every couple weeks. So clearly he was interested. Clearly he was thinking the same, like, how are we related? There's something up here, you know what I mean? Because it would have shown up probably the same exact way on his end. So that was in like April, I think I messaged him, sent him another one maybe a few months later. He reads them, no response. Finally, December 23rd, 2022. Is that 2022? Or was that last year? What year are we in? So, was it 2022? No, 2023. A year has like gone by. I really got like 2023 was like the year that I really was finding out all this information. Like last April is when I really dove in and started sharing my journey and all this stuff. So really I found out everything within like a year and a half. So December 23rd of last year, he messaged me back finally, and he finally said, because I sent him another message and I said, hey, I'm adopted. I'm looking for my family. I know, I feel in my heart that like you have your family tree, but it won't let me see it, because, well, it lets you see it, but if relatives are alive, then their names are hidden, it's private. And so I was like, I know he has something. Like at the time I was like, I don't even think, who knows if he's my brother or not, but he's got a family tree, and if one of my people that I'm looking for is on that tree, I need his help. I need to talk to him. So that's when I finally sent him a message and told him like, hey, I'm adopted. This is what I'm doing. This is who I'm looking for, like blah, blah, blah. And that's what finally got a response out of him. So he messaged me like the 22nd or the 23rd of December last year and actually told me, hey, I'm adopted as well. I don't know anything, so it would actually be the other way around. Like you would know more than me, and you would be able to help me more than I'd be able to help you. And I said, abso-fucking-lutely, sign me up. I messaged him back right away, which, oh Lord. So I messaged him back right away, told him I would tell him everything he wants to know, and we both were like, yes, we want to figure out how we relate to each other. We were interested in learning more, like he was interested, all of the things, right? No response still. And it's, what month are we in? The end of September of the next year. So I messaged him maybe in the spring of this year, and I just said like, hey, like I've continued my search. This is what I found out. Like I think I've kind of like figured out some things. Didn't know anything about siblings, but I was like, I've continued my search. I've got a lot of information I would love to share with you. Let me know, you know? And I think he read that. And I had to look. So he is so complicated. It's like literally insane. Where's my Ancestry app? So I messaged him. Yeah, I don't know if I don't even know. So December 21st is when I responded to his message that he sent me back. And then I didn't say anything else. He opened that message, I think, but never responded. So in May, after like crying and being in turmoil for months, I was just like, hey, I know you're very busy. I've continued my search. I'd love to connect and figure out how we relate to each other. What else did I say? I don't know if you've looked into anything on your end or not, but you're the closest family I've been able to find so far. I did locate my birth mother, but we haven't actually made contact. But I said, if this message is too annoying and difficult to check, please let me know another way we could chat and share info. Nothing. So then, he didn't, I don't think he saw that, but he might have. I don't remember. But it's just frustrating because it's like, I don't want to be the only one that knows this information. And also, if he's here, this is the only sibling that I can get to and have a relationship with and talk to. And also, like, I don't want to be the only one knowing all this information. Like, if he's adopted too and he wants to find his family, like, I don't want to be the only one that knows we're siblings. I don't want to be the only one that knows all this shit about my mom and, like, you know? So it's really frustrating that he hasn't answered. So I messaged him again on June 28th of this year. And this was right before I found my family. And I just said, I've continued my search. I have found out a lot of information. I think I told you that I know who my mom is, and I have now found out who my siblings are. So that was on June 28th of this year. And he hasn't even opened that, I don't think. I don't even think he's logged on. It said the last time he logged on, which might be different now because I haven't checked in a little bit. He hasn't been in here since March, which is actually a really, really long time for him. Because like I said earlier, he was checking like every 2-3 weeks. So that makes me kind of nervous, but also like, is he trying to figure it out, or maybe he's just afraid to open them and like log on? Because maybe he knows in the back of his mind, you know? I don't know. But anywho, so I messaged him June 28th. So what I did, because we didn't know really what to do, we just like, you know, we're kind of waiting is she gonna see that? We saw new documents and like all this stuff. So Dasha and I were kind of just like figuring out like, what are we gonna do? So like I said earlier, I'm in a bunch of adoption groups on Facebook, and specifically the 2 Russian adoptee pages. And in one of the pages, there is a detective that a lot of people use. And I was just like, what do I have to lose? Like, I'm in a couple group chats as well, and people were talking about her and how she found their families for them in like 2 days. And I was just like, should I just try it? Like, what do I have to lose? It's been 9 fucking years. I need to find my family. Like, I want my answers. And if this lady's helping all these other people, she for sure could help me, right? So I was kind of talking with the other people in the group chat that have used her, and I was like, is this reliable? Like, is this safe? Like, how much did you pay? Did you pay? Like, all these things. So then I finally messaged the lady, and I just said, hey, like, I don't know how you can help me, but I was like, I know a lot of information on my own already. Would you be willing and available to like double check the info that I have, and if you find anything else, would you let me know, and how much would that cost? So she responded really pretty quick, and she told me like, yes, I can figure out who, like, I'll give me your mom's name and info, whatever, I'll do that. I'll figure out if you have siblings, whatever. And then I asked her, like, is there a way that you could find like what my mom looks like how much would that cost? And so I paid her $200 to find my entire family. And within, so I sent her I had to do like a $1 test like through PayPal, so it was like secure, and like we can make sure that the money went through and stuff. I sent her the $1 test, and that was good enough for her. So she actually sent me all my info before I had even sent the $200. So I sent her the $1 test fee or whatever, sent her a screenshot that like that was sent, so she knew that I wasn't like lying, you know, because like you never know. And I was getting my hopes up, and I was just like, I don't want to do this wrong, but I also don't want to get scammed, because I've been hurt before, like relying on somebody else. So I showed her here, I sent the $1 to the lady that's supposed to give it to her, whatever. She immediately started sending me documents, birth records of my siblings, the marriage certificate thing for when my mom did get married. I don't think they're married anymore, but I don't really know. I don't think so. Which was crazy. Like that day, I had the list of all my siblings, which was beyond. And then I sent the $200 like in the middle of like her sending me all that stuff. So I immediately knew who all my siblings were, which is crazy because there are 9 of us, which is baffling to even say out loud. And it was so overwhelming. I cried. It was just like, holy shit, you know what I mean? So she sends me all my siblings, and I make a list of birthdays. I know their birthdays, I know their full names, I know who some of the dads are. Some of them have the same dads, the rest of us all have different dads. And I knew right then and there who my siblings are, and it's all girls except for the Andre that I found on Ancestry. So I always thought I'd be the oldest, or at least like maybe the second oldest, you know? I'm actually the 4th oldest. So I found out there was a girl, and she passed away. Then it was my older sister, Karina. She's 3 years older than me. I got a ring made. She has the September birthstone. So there's Karina, who's 3 years older than me. Then there was a daughter in between us who passed away, which I'm not really going to share that, but my mom's doing. And then there was me for July, so I have the ruby birthstone. And then there's a 5-year age gap. And the next one is my younger sister. Her name is Alina. Hold on if it'll focus properly. My sister Alina, 5 years younger. She's November. My Russian name is Ekaterina, or Katya, so Catherine or Katie, which is my name in English. My parents kept that. And so I actually have a younger sister who's also named Ekaterina. And so she is, if it'll focus, she's also November. She's a couple years younger than Alina. And then I have my younger sister, Masha, or Maria, but Masha's the Russian version. She is 15, and she was born in June, so she has the Alexandrite birthstone, which is actually this birthstone as well. She's actually in an orphanage right now. And then I have my youngest sister, Alexandra, which is so crazy because that's my middle name that my parents gave me. And the fact that I have a sister named Alexandra, it's just crazy how the world works, you know what I mean? She's 14, and she is July again. So I got a ring made with all the sisters. I didn't put Andre on there, but I got my ring made. I got this necklace. If you guys watch my TikToks, I got my Russian name on my necklace. And then I actually just recently got a tattoo with the Moscow cityscape and my Russian name, because I just, especially now more than ever after finding my family, like I said at the beginning of this video, I feel more myself than I ever have. I feel more Russian than I ever have in my whole life. I want to feel closer to Russia. I want to feel my culture. I want to do more Russian things and just like embrace where I come from, because it's not that I haven't done any Russian things, but I also haven't. You know what I mean? Like, I've done a couple Russian things over my life, but I don't do enough. And I really want to do more. I really want to, like, dive in. I'm trying to learn the language so I can talk to my family better, and things like that. But we'll get into that in maybe in a separate video because this is gonna be so long. So yeah, I found all my sisters. So Andre would be kind of in the middle. He, according to records, he would probably be like 21 or 22. So I'm like 7 or 8 years older than him, which is crazy. And it's like, I know all this information, like, just answer me. But yeah, so I found all my sisters that day. So there's 9 of us, but only 7 of us are alive. That's just why there's only 6 of us on my ring. So, which I think I told you that. The oldest daughter passed away, and the one in between my sister and I, my older sister and I, passed away. So, yeah, I found all my siblings, I found out all that stuff, and that was like the 28th, I think, or like the day after I messaged him, I found out all that stuff. Or was that day? Yeah. So June 28th, 2024 is the day that I found all of my sisters. And then I didn't talk to them until July 1st. So, and I was sending all this stuff to Dasha this whole time, and she was like helping me translate things and whatever. Then I think it was the 29th, the lady sends me pictures of my mom. She sent me her passport photos, from like all of her passport photos, and I look like her. I look like her when she was younger, obviously. And it's just crazy to see. Like, it's all I ever wanted, really. I was like, at the end of the day, from day one when I started this, and my whole life, really, if I can't have a relationship with her, if I can't know anything about her or my family, like, I just want to know what she looks like. I just want to know if I look like her, because I don't know where I come from. You know what I mean? Like, I can look at my sister and I can see how she looks just like my dad, and how she looks like my mom, and how she looks like just like my aunt. I can look at her and, like, I don't know, I'm about to get emotional for some reason. I can, like, see where she comes from just by looking at her. And I was like, my whole life, I was like, I want that. I want to feel like I know who I belong to and where I come from. Not that I belong to her, but you know what I mean? Like, my adopted family is my family 100%. That nothing will ever change with that. Like, I love them more than anything in my entire life. And just because I found my Russian family doesn't mean anything when it comes to that. But I just wanted to know, like, do I look like my mom? Do I have her eyes? Like, do I have her jawline? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you just want to know where you come from. So I saw her pictures, and then on July 1st, Dasha found out that my sister, my older sister, had a different last name. She had changed it, and she messaged her we found her on the Russian social media app on VK. And instead of me messaging her, I let Dasha do it, because Dasha said, you know, she's Russian. She could very well, like, just be completely, like, turned off by you messaging and think it's a scam and stuff. And she was like, do you want me to message? And I said, sure. Because I trust Dasha with my entire life at this point. Like, I owe her my life, truly. She messages my sister, tells her that someone's looking, like, do you know Victoria? She says, that's my mother. And she said, well, here's the situation. Her daughter's looking for her. And my sister didn't believe it at first. It was, I mean, I can imagine it's very hard for her to just know that you have an American sister, or a Russian sister living in America, almost 30 years later. So my older sister, she's Karina, she's 32, 33, because she's 3 years older than me. So 32. And yeah, she had a really hard time believing it at first, but then she messaged me herself. So July 1st was the first time that I talked to my siblings, which is a day I'll never forget for as long as I live. She messaged me and said, like, hey, like, I know you're looking for me, like, and she just didn't believe me at first. And then we connected on WhatsApp. So we connected on Instagram, and then we moved over to WhatsApp. And then we were talking. She had a very hard time. She was like, I just don't believe this. I don't believe this. And Dasha was talking to her at the same time. I think they actually had like a phone call, or like a Skype, or like FaceTime. So that Dasha could, just like be like, I'm a real person. I'm trustworthy. Like, this is real. And like explain to her, talk to her in her language, you know, all that stuff. And then she must have known my younger sister Alina, and so she sent Alina to me. So then I started talking to my younger sister, which is crazy that I'm like an older sister. I've always been the younger sister because my sister Sarah's 5 years older than me. And I was telling, you know, my sister and my parents, like I was sending them all these updates and like pictures of them, and like it was just crazy. We were all like blown away. And we were so excited. My family was so excited for me. And I really made sure to, like, even though they said like we're fine, like everything's fine, I really made sure that like I wasn't going to upset anybody. I wanted to make sure that they obviously knew, which they know, but I was just terrified. Like, I don't want to hurt your feelings. I just want you to feel included, like all of those things. So I was just sending them updates left and right. And so I was texting my sister and I was like, is this how you feel being an older sister? Because I have known these girls for 5 minutes, and I already, like my younger siblings, even my older sister, but mostly my younger siblings, I'm so protective of them already, even though I'm a world away from them. I love them immediately. They are the most beautiful women I've ever seen in my entire life, especially my younger sister Alina, who's the one that's 5 years younger than me. She's the most beautiful woman I've ever seen in my entire life. And then my younger sister, Masha, who's in the orphanage, she looks just like me at like 13, like 12, 13. I saw her picture and I was like, holy smokes, I'm looking at myself. It was the most surreal day I've ever had in my life. So Alina came to me next, and then I don't know how Masha found me, but she found me on Instagram and just like commented on my photo, and I was like, holy shit. So my sister Karina, the older one, she ended up putting us all in a group chat. It was me, Karina, Alina, and then I have a first cousin named Dasha. So the Dasha that was helping me that lives in California, she's like my 4th or 5th cousin. So this is a different Dasha that lives in Moscow still. So all my siblings still live in Moscow except for Andre probably. So we were in a group chat with like the three of us sisters plus Dasha, and then I think my other cousin Sasha, who might be our second cousin. So there's the 5 of us, and then Masha obviously wasn't in there. I don't think she's old enough like for the stuff that we were talking about, you know. And we want to protect her, obviously. So I got to talk to them. I got to meet my like close cousins. I saw pictures of my family. I saw a family tree. We talked about my mom. I really got the 411 for my older sister. And she told Dasha before she told me, so I knew some of the information from Dasha. I have not spoken to my mother directly. My mom knows that I have found my sisters. She knows that I exist. She is just an absolute horrific human being. She's a terrible person, which is fine. I got my answers. That's all I cared about at the end of the day. Does it suck? Yeah. She doesn't really give a shit that I exist and that that any of us exist really. The only one that talks to my mom is my sister Masha. So I haven't talked to the other Ekaterina, and I have not talked to the youngest Sasha or Alexandra. So Ekaterina, I think my sister told me she has cerebral palsy, and then my youngest sister Alexandra, who's 14, she has autism. So I don't know if or ever I will talk to them or meet them. I do plan to go to Russia as soon as all this stuff figures itself out over there. I do want to go with my parents. That's always been a dream, to go with my sister and Mark and my parents while my parents can still get around, because I want to go with them. I want them to be included. They obviously went twice to come pick me up. I would love to go with them so I can see what they saw, and we can talk about that, and then they can meet my family as well. Will I see my mom? Probably not. If she wanted to see me in person and have a conversation, I think I would, just because I think I would regret it if I'm there and she wants to do that. Would I get anything out of it? Probably not. You know what I mean? I don't want anything from her. I don't trust her. But I would really love to see my sisters in person. But yeah, I talk to my sisters every day, every couple days. We see each other on Instagram. We talk mostly through there these days. Just like liking each other's stuff and messaging back and forth. But we still have the WhatsApp thing. We're still trying to learn each other's languages. They'll speak in English a little bit or translate things, and then I'll just type my messages in English. But on my Instagram, like, I'll do like an English caption, and then underneath I'll write it in Russian so that they can understand it. It's just crazy. It is absolutely insane. It's been 2024 is like a year I will never forget, because after 9 years of searching, I found my family. And like I said, I feel more like myself than I ever have. My extended family has been very supportive. I've had a couple issues, but we'll go into that maybe in another video. But for the most part, I've been very blessed and very lucky. And so I just wanted to share that. I'm sure I left some things out. My battery's about to die. But that's my journey over the last 9 years. I feel like I probably rambled and forgot things, and I need to add more things. So if you guys have any questions, or if you want me to go more into detail about the apps, the DNA stuff, like all, you know, I will happily go over. I think I didn't really talk about my mom too much. There's a lot that goes on with her. And yeah, so lots of updates, lots of things I could still make videos about, but I need to start sharing more on here because I post so much about it on my Instagram and on my TikTok. So definitely follow me on those 2 platforms. They're all listed in my bio. And yeah, I hope to connect with other adoptees and just other people in general by sharing my story, and I'm proud of where I come from. I have it on my body, obviously, and then like I have like little things like this. Like I have this Russian Barbie that my parents got me as a kid. I've got my little like nesting dolls. I'm very proud of where I come from, and I hope that over the next couple years I can go and meet my family, with my family, and just seeing my American family with my Russian family is going to be the craziest. I'm gonna cry the whole freaking trip. I have cried a lot the last like month, 2 months, because, and I feel like I still haven't really processed it, because this is life-changing shit, and I just feel like I still haven't even really processed it all. But I'm really grateful for the life I've been given, and I just want to share that gift with everyone else. And like I said in the beginning, like I'm not afraid to share every little detail, because that's my life. I'm entitled to share it how I want it as well. But I'm also not going to air everybody's dirty laundry and all the details of my mom's bullshit, and like my sister's stuff, you know, on the internet, because it's not my place. But for the most part, I'm an open book, and I really loved connecting with everyone and sharing my story. So anyways, if you guys want to see more adoption things or updates, or go into more detail about certain things, definitely let me know. Please share this video. I would love for other adoptees to see it, especially Russian adoptees. And if you or a family member, or if you know people that are adopted, you can send them this video and just let them know that you care about them, and that they matter to you, and where they come from matter to you, because at the end of the day, that's all we have is our family. And if your family doesn't honor you and where you come from, then that's their loss. But yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!